Well, we're back from spring break. So it's Monday, 3/19. This week is over. Already done. We're already done with week 9. We did Tech Den this week on Friday. And it went well. We had some people here. It was good. We did some Python programming. Next week we're going to do some Unreal Engine and game development startup. The reminder job fair. And we are in this is week number 9. That finishing up for routing and switching, and they're working in VLANs, topics, and labs. So we have developed the ability to interchange VLANs information between switches with a trunk. I'll make the trunk blue. And we've also trunked to a routing device, and we created sub-interfaces here in order for VLANs to move from one VLAN to another. So if we have a red VLAN and it needs to talk to a green VLAN, the traffic has to go and it gets tagged red here, and then it has to go up here, it gets tagged red again, goes up in the router, gets routed. When it comes out, now it'll be tagged green, and it'll be put on the green VLAN. If you believe that. Alright. So let's take a look at this example here. First of all, VLANs. You create VLANs in some cases based on location, in other places based on groups, and sometimes both. What that means, for example, at the college, in a building, they'll have a wiring closet that will service a certain part of the building, and that will have VLANs based on that. There will be VLANs for that location, another wiring closet, then this one will be on a different VLAN. And then they also split them by groups. They would have, as an example, faculty, general staff, and students. Be on different VLANs. Remember the idea, VLANs are on separate networks, so we don't have the problem with competing for broadcast traffic like ARPs, and just traffic in general. And then also they allow for security. And we will talk about access lists next week. So let's go back to our example. PC on 20, PC on 20. The only way they're going to talk to each other, they can talk to each other, right? Because their traffic will be tagged when it goes through. And it'll go from the green PC to the green PC. Now the black here, if you got on the black, that cannot talk to the 10 or 20 unless it goes through the router. So if the black left, it would be tagged with the black. It'd go up to the router. Maybe I should have done this. And go up to the router, and then if it was going to the let's say and we could say over here a VLAN, or we'll just pick green, we'll say this green one right here, VLAN 20, when it leaves, it's now going to be tagged with green again. It'll be tagged with green here again, and then it'll go down to the PC. cool, huh? You say, oh yeah. So here we have, let me make that a little more clear. Here we have sub interfaces to do this. Now we got some examples. It'd be kind of fun to look at. First of all, here we haven't changed the native VLAN. Both of these are trunking. Here are the ports. And one of those ports is going to the router from the switch, and the other port's going to the other switch. Make sense? You can tell both of these ports, the trunking was turned on. You went into the interface, fast interface 01, and then we type switch port mode trunk, and it forces it to be a trunk. Alright. More on this later on, you don't have to worry about right now, but VLANs allowed, and these are the VLANs allowed and active in the management domain, and spanning trees forwarding, and they're not pruned. You don't need to worry about pruning yet. Alright, so let's move to here. You can see that I've set up the sub interfaces. No address on the physical interface because I have addresses on the sub interface in the router. This is the serial connection down here. In this configuration here, fast Ethernet 01, then fast Ethernet 01.10. You can use any number you want here, but I use 10 because this 10 referenced the .1q protocol, 802.1q, right here, and it says that's how you're going to encapsulate it. Then we can give that sub interface an IP. This will be the default gateway for any PCs on that VLAN. Similar situation here. You notice here, that means it's going to tag it for VLAN 20 for this network. Now, we had some addressing, so we decided, well, we want to be able to have at least 8 networks with 30 hosts on each. So that's why we decided to borrow 3 bits. We had to borrow some bits out of this range here because this range was given to us /24, so we couldn't change that. We couldn't change that range. So then we assigned to VLAN 10 this set of networks, the VLAN 20 this set, and you saw those configured in the for the sub interfaces. Later on, we could create a management VLAN, let's say VLAN 80 or something for management, and we could assign them one of those 8 addresses. This is arbitrary. You can pick different ones. You just have to figure out your plan on how you want to do that. Okay. Wednesday. And we're still in week 9, week after spring break. Tech Dens on Friday, career fair. More on VLANs. Monday, multi-layered switches. It's really cool. Multi-layered switches, let's just look at that right now. You can have a router. Here's what we've been doing. We have a router, create a trunk to a switch. Multi-layer switch can do this whole thing inside one device. And we'll talk a little more about that in a minute. Alright, so a lot of review from what we did before. We got VLAN 10, VLAN 20. We talked about a PC on VLAN 10, a PC on VLAN 20. Then we made a VLAN 99. And what we did is we talked about doing this work. We here where we have sub interfaces, we set them up for VLAN 10, VLAN 20, then we set up another one for VLAN 99. Then we talked about the work, okay, layer 2 switches, and we said, you know, ports, ports on a layer 2 switch is either a trunk or an access, but on a multi-layered switch, which we're going to be talking about here, you also have routing ports. So here's where we're going to take care of this work. There. So we'll get a scenario that might look like this up here. We can run a trunk to a layer 2 switch. We can get something a little more noticeable here. And this, instead of being a trunk, that can be a regular network. Because what we can do is this port, we can turn into a routing port. So it can communicate with a router on a regular routing network. And then down here we can create our trunks. So then same thing's true if you have a red, let's say our VLAN 10 is red, you can communicate here or even here to VLANs. But if you want to go to a green VLAN, it can get routed in here and come back out, go to the green VLAN. Alright, we'll be configuring those on Monday, and so I'm going to add a page. So you can have a multi-layered switch, then you can do a command called IP routing, and you can tell that switch now it's going to be routing. Then you can decide, you can set up a port. Let's say you're connecting another switch, a layer 2 switch. Now you can set this up as a trunk, so you get trunking. You can set up ports. Let's say you're going to add a device over here. So that can be an access port. Just like down here, you're going to have access ports. Okay, and this might be a special PC, or maybe this is with servers. Okay, maybe. Then you can set up actually a routing port. And connect that to a router. Routing. Separate routing port. You go into the interface and you can just say no switch port. So unless you're just telling it, it's not a switch port anymore. And that's all there is to that. In the trunking would be the same. Except you may have to set the encapsulation if it's an older switch. Set it to 802.1q. Alright, well that's it for this week. Now, let me add one more page. Enter VLAN routing. inter VLAN routing in a multi-layered switch. You need to, whoops, let me not use the word set. You need to have IP routing enabled. And then you can simply go to the interface for the VLANs. Okay, after you set up the VLANs, I should have wrote that in there. Your VLANs on the switch, and then you go interface, VLAN, and some number, and then go ahead and give it IP addressing. And you can do that for all your VLANs. And really, it will route between them as long as as long as you have that set up. And then remember, there might be a little extra work to set encapsulation. If you are trunking to another switch. Alright, that is it for this week.